thank you to everybody joining us today. In the next sort of 10 minutes or so, I want to give you a high-level introduction to Neota logic and why law firms use our technology as a core part of their innovation roadmap, and also how they use it as well. But I want to start with a bit of history and see if we can draw out some guiding themes from the past. Legal services as an industry has resisted deep structural change for a very long time. I think far longer than some other industries have managed to. And there are a lot of reasons for this. But I think one of the core ones is that law is just complicated. It takes real experience and real expertise to know what the right answers are. It's a heavily regulated market. The price of falling foul of the rules and getting it wrong is consequently very, very high. So it's always been a service which had to be delivered in an analog way. Only a trained expert could properly advise you or your company on the right course of action. You certainly couldn't do it yourself. So from that came, some of the structural and cultural elements of the legal profession. But we're now moving along this journey from analog to digital legal services, because technology is now capable of taking on and completing to a high level a lot of routine legal work, and in some cases, quite complex legal work. And I think that progress is actually a very good thing for law firms, because at the same time as this, you're also dealing with a more for less challenge. Your clients' expectations and cost pressures are sky high. And you can add to that mix the fact that we're looking like being a remote workforce for the foreseeable future. So, as a law firm, how do you ensure that you give the same quality legal advice as before all of this? You can then add into that mix all of these new different legal delivery mechanisms, alternative legal service providers, legal managed services, digitization by incumbent firms. A couple of examples I've thrown up there of two of our customers, Allen & Overy and Clifford Chance, who have developed their own highly successful digital service companies, digital service delivery companies. You add all of these things together, and we've got a slightly worrying cocktail that I'm sure many of you are already concerned about. So what happens to everybody else in the market? And again, I think it's worth studying history to see how these things can pan out. And there is this theory of disruptive innovation, which was developed earlier this century, which talks about 4 key stages of market disruption. So step 1, there is this, the new kids turn up on the block with new technology and a capability to provide services at a far lower cost. And in the beginning, it's actually very easy to ignore them because established firms have all of the relationships with the customers and all of the familiarity with the market. And so what if these young companies pick up some of the low value work at the bottom of the market? So established firms, to begin with, let it slide and focus their energies on the more prestigious, more high value work where the margins are. But what this does is leave open territory for the upstarts in the lower market, in the middle market. And the first few established firms start to feel the bite because they begin to get outcompeted on price. There is a trend that's quite clear from this point onwards. Is basically that once the new competitors dominate the lower end of the market, and bearing in mind that technology is improving concurrently all the time as this is happening, they then start to drift up market and into more high value domains. And if you let it take its course, then what eventually happens is that those disruptors become the incumbents and face similar disincentives to innovate too strongly, and then begins the cycle again. Once they're the incumbents, then there is space for new disruptors to disrupt the market. Now look, I'm painting perhaps a slightly bleak picture, but the overall message of this presentation for law firms is actually a very positive one, because we have a really clear answer in our minds of what do law firms do in this situation. Because, what is the solution here? How do you, as a law firm, navigate, 1, the rising client demands, 2, the coronavirus situation, and 3, all of this disruption that's happening? And the short answer to that question is by transforming your services into digital services. Because the key message of this presentation is that disruption isn't a death sentence for established law firms. It's just a wake-up call, because it's law firms who have all of the relationships with business. It's law firms who have carefully built their reputations and their track records on the back of consistently excellent work. It's also law firms who would benefit most from digitization, because you already have market demand. What you just need to do is give customers the market what they're asking for. And what they're asking for is digital services, by which I mean services that are run 24/7, operate at a far lower cost, capture data so that you can use that data to improve your services, and just save the firm enormous quantities of time and money, which can be passed on. The other thing it can do is open up new revenue opportunities as well. And that's what firms like Clifford Chance, like Allen & Overy, and plenty of others have realised. Because it's little more powerful than a law firm's reputation and a law firm's track record. And if you can combine that pedigree with a really good, really judicious use of technology, you can actually change that disruption picture quite a lot. So that's what Neota Logic is all about, really. It's about transforming legal services with law firms into digital services, automating routine work, saving lawyer time, so that the firm can focus on higher value work, and without having to worry about fees being eaten into by disruptors and new law companies, or worrying about a drop in quality. So what does Neota Logic do? Well, in a sentence, it's a no-code, intelligent automation platform for expertise, documents, and processes. And rather than me go into a great amount of detail about that here, you're going to see a lot of examples of exactly what that means in a lot of our customer presentations. But it covers anything from automating your advice to automating contracts and other documents, to automating entire business processes and workflows. And we've been doing this for a very long time, so since 2010, and we have really deep experience working with law firms. We're practically a company full of lawyers. I was myself in private practice until last year, so we really understand law firm needs, what the problems are in law firms. I also mentioned the term just now, no code, and this is really the final point I want to make before I hand over for the next presentation. Neota Logic is a no-code technology. So what that means is that the digital tools that you build in Neota Logic don't require you to know how to code. It's all drag and drop. So it's all boxes and arrows and visual tools, which means you can do things like this, just connecting up boxes with logic and rules and pieces, and create a working piece of software like this in the space of half an hour, a lunch break. And our customers are finding that this no-code approach is really far superior to traditional software development. It's an awful lot quicker for a start, so projects you can launch in days and weeks rather than waiting months and years for various sign-offs and various checks. Because it's so much quicker, it's consequently cheaper as well, so there's less spent on development costs. It only requires a little bit of training too, so whether you're a lawyer like myself, or a technologist, or a business person, you can all very quickly, very easily learn how to use the tools. And the fact that it's no code means that there are also no mysteries. There's no black box, algorithm which churns out answers without you knowing why or how. No mountains of data that are being crunched. There's nothing opaque here, because anyone can understand what's going on, what's going into a Neota tool and what's coming out of it. That kind of technology accountability is very powerful in the legal space. And finally, the fact that Neota Logic is no code means that our customers have been able to release tools to the market that very, very quickly, and therefore be very responsive to market demand. So there's a few examples on the screen here from BCLP, Deloitte, KPMG, Herbert Smith Freehills. All of these tools were rapidly prototyped, rapidly deployed, and used to build a digital profile and a digital reputation in the market. So that's us, that's Neota Logic. And if you want to learn a bit more, or if you want any of the recordings from the conference, do just reach out to me at Aziz, AZIZ, at neotalogic.com.